Welcome to the Disrupt Education Podcast. Alli, Privitt, Peter Hostrawser, our guest. I'll announce her in a minute. Hi, Alli. How you doing?
I'm well. I got some insight before we started recording that our guest is a list maker. I
Yes.
am with with you in spirit. I love making a list just to check things off of a list. It's very rewarding. If anybody else out there is pro list, hit me up. Let me know. It's just very satisfying. Peter, are you a list maker?
I am. Yes, I do. Very small list, and then sometimes I have list everywhere. So that's my problem. But I do every day on my computer, whether I'm at work or in summer, whatever. I have a small list of things, 4 or 5 things that I have to do. So that's what I'm in the middle of. So did not know that about you, the list maker. I knew that about our guest, Gabby Konopko. Is it Konopko? How do I say that correctly? I'm sorry.
Konopko.
See, Konopko. See, I got to work on my Polish accent. Gabby is just a recent graduate of Stag High School, just like Patrick, and but very different path, doing some different things. Gabby, if you had about a minute to tell people who you are, what would you say?
So I'm an 18-year-old entrepreneur. I run my own business. I customize clothing, cups, and glasses in my free time. That's mainly what I do, but I love working with kids. So I'm a camp counselor right now, and I'm about to go to North Central for college, and I might study education. And then I'm also going to be on the cheer team.
Awesome.
Basically all about myself.
That was on the list. I think, Alli.
Definitely on the list. There's a lot to unpack and just, that brief description of yourself, which I like that I can even sense you have a sense of who you are or things that you're doing. And you started with, I think the most interesting is that you called yourself an entrepreneur, which I don't hear a lot of young people start off, yes, I'm 18 and I'm an entrepreneur. So what would you, where did the entrepreneur spirit come from? What kind of got you into that space?
I've always been the creative type. I've always been creating gifts for my friends, my own things. So originally I started off by creating my own jewelry, and a lot of my friends on social media loved that I was making those. So they just asked me to make them for the jewelry for them. So then I decided to start turning that into a business and selling it. And then it just grew from there. I wanted to make my own clothes, did my own designs on cute, like customized Starbucks cups. I decided to make my own, and then I just turned everything into a business. My mindset is always like, can I use this as a way to make money?
And that's where I had her in 2 entrepreneurship classes. I don't really allow kids to take it twice, but she did, which is pretty cool. I really like that about you. Which is interesting, though, you also want to be in education. You want to help youth, young kids, I think. Is it elementary education?
Yeah.
You got to connect those. How did you find out that? How did, through your journey, let's take a look at you're just through your K through 12, right? 12 years of education traditionally. What is it that was that aha moment that I want to help young kids, even though you are an excellent entrepreneur and business person?
My major that I decided on was marketing. That made me sit at a desk all day. Like, I like being hands-on and working with people, standing up and moving around. And I was thinking, I'm like, the only jobs that I've ever had growing up were just babysitting, being a counselor, and being a coach for young kids. And then I realized growing up, I've always loved playing school with my friends, and I never let anybody else be the teacher. I had to be the teacher. I would take papers from my teachers at the end of elementary, and I would ask them if I could just take them and use them at home. And then I realized that I'm like, oh my gosh, this whole entire time I've been wanting to be a teacher. And then now I'm going into it, trying to decide if I want to go into it.
Who knows? You might end up, as a business teacher, entrepreneurship. But, I think the cool thing about you wanting to, you have the entrepreneurial side, and then you have this passion and obviously zest for teaching, is that can be so beneficial at a younger age. Peter and I regularly talk about, getting kids and finding their passions early, or just having someone to kind of guide them, and not necessarily locking kids into the traditional school model system. Is that, just you with that entrepreneurial spirit so young, and then also wanting to help even younger kids, you could help those kids turn their lemonade stands and root beer floats, or, I know kids like to mow grass, and they could even like work on their negotiation skills with their parents for chores and wages, and there's all these things that I'm like, you could take the stuff you've learned from business and incorporate that into a teaching practice if you chose to do so. I'm curious, in the entrepreneurial journey, what was kind of like a standout lesson that you had to learn, even taking, your passion for making clothes and jewelry and all this stuff and selling it, but that doesn't mean that you're necessarily successful, or you still enjoy it after a while. So what's like a lesson that you had to kind of learn along the way that maybe you didn't anticipate, or you've had to kind of grow through?
The first thing that always comes to mind is just knowing that my failures and my setbacks aren't failures. They're just a way of learning and growing and moving forward. That's one thing for sure. Because I do lose motivation, but then I know that I'm going to learn from the problems that I've gone through and stuff. And I just know that the end result is always great.
What grade it would be like right now? Like, what would be your perfect grade to teach?
I don't know. I work with so many different kids right now, and it's just hard because my group that I work with at the summer camp is 7 and 8 year olds. I don't even know what grade that is, but I also favor the really little ones, like the 5 and 6 year olds. I hang out with them sometimes more than my own kids with the 7 and 8 year olds. So it's really hard to decide.
Can you imagine like how you would teach them like what you just said there about failure? Like, okay, try again. I mean, I just imagine you coming up with some creative ways. I know I'm just like throwing a big question at you here, but like, say you got like a 7-year-old or 6-year-old in front of you and they're down because they screwed up something and they tried something that didn't work. How would you do that?
I don't know, like for example, something small today happened was one of the kids was very upset because their hat got wet. And I just had to explain to them, like, it's going to end up being dry eventually. You just have to wait and stay positive before that even happens. This poor kid was literally crying because his hat was wet. And I felt so bad. So I just had to explain to him that it's going to end up drying. So you just have to think about the positive things, and you have to tell them that it's all going to be okay, and tell them what it's going to end up being.
Is that something that you like had in high school? Like, how does that like come into like your own learning, right? Did you see that did you feel like you saw that model as a high school student, or maybe you didn't? What kept you going like in the different areas in high school? What would you say? Was it that positivity? Was it something else?
You, of course.
I totally set that up, Alli. No, I'm just teasing.
Sometimes I would want to like quit, or I felt down from even my business. It gets hard. Yeah. But then I would go to your classes, you would give me those motivational speeches and help me stay positive, and then I know I have to keep going. And one reason I would keep going was for you. I didn't want to let you down.
Oh, that's nice. I'm humbled.
As someone who coaches and I've coached in lots of different spaces, like on sports teams, and then I definitely see being a teacher, a main role is really that it's kind of that guide coach realm, and that's it's a really beautiful space. And to hear that, you know, Peter, Mr. H was that for you. I don't think everyone realizes that coaching relationship, that educational relationship between student and teacher is so transformative. And there are definitely students post high school in college that struggle to have that same kind of relationship with professors. It just depends on where you go and how kind of life shifts for you. So, you know, like how do you anticipate, you know, keeping yourself motivated, you know, moving forward now, like, you know, now that you're going into college? Or what have you kind of, yes, I'm sure Peter, Mr. H has helped you motivate yourself, but then like, how do you motivate yourself without that, right? Like that, without that piece.
So first, I decided to go into a smaller school, knowing that my classes are going to be smaller and that I can grow that relationship with my professors so that I can speak to them if I need advice or anything. Also, I just upgraded from working in my room to a business room. So having everything out and knowing where it's going to be is so much easier than having to shuffle around all these random boxes that were in my room. So that definitely motivates me. And also, like, for example, right now I'm really behind on orders because I have so much going on and it's stressing me out. And because I'm unmotivated, I don't want to do it. But knowing that once I finish those, like, I'll get money, I'll get more exposure because some of these are like big orders. And just knowing that I'll be relaxed after and I'll have more free time keeps me going too. So I just have to think about the end results. I do that often.
Did the grade do that for you, or was there something else, or was it a combination of both in your learning journey?
It depends on the class. Like, no, like in your class, I knew that I'm going to have a good grade no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But I just had to like know like my assignments and actually like try them and not just do whatever randomly because they're going to benefit me in the long run. Some classes were just more difficult, like my math classes. I didn't really care for my math classes. I was just like check the boxes. But your classes were amazing. Like they were definitely most motivational because of all your speeches and your curriculum. So yeah.
I give a lot of speeches, Alli. I do.
Every single day, almost a speech. But I was very thankful for it. My last day of senior year, I was getting so emotional knowing that it was my last one I'll ever hear. I couldn't even
you
talk
just keep
to
listening
Mr.
to the
H.
podcast. We'll give speeches, you know.
I could not even talk to you. I was about to cry when I was leaving your class.
It is amazing though to hear you say, like, you know, when you're giving your all, and I think that's one of the things that came from Patrick as well, is like the self-awareness of the 10,000 foot view, you know, I know why I'm doing this, and I know what I can get out of this outside of the grade. And you kind of have that as well to really kind of see, you know, the outcome, whatever it is, it's going to be okay, right? There's going to be something here. We can do something. I do remember going through a different way of math with you. I think it was the second time you took entrepreneurship, and we went through kind of the cost analysis and we time framed everything. Was there any time in like maybe your core classes that you could attach it to, or you figured out, hey, you know what, I can attach this to becoming an elementary school teacher or a business person in the class? Or was it totally detached and check the box only for you? And why do you think that was?
I feel like I just recently decided that I wanted to go into education, so I never really thought about it at all at school, unless maybe like elementary, because that was when I pretended to be the teacher. But not really in high school. I feel like it's always been check the box because I didn't really take those classes that I liked and enjoyed, especially since I just changed what I wanted to do. Like before I took your first class junior year, I wanted to go into architecture and interior design. But then once I started taking your classes, I felt stuck. Like I couldn't take any more classes except repeat the ones that I took with you. So yeah, other than your classes, they were all check the box for me.
Hmm.
I couldn't find anything that I enjoyed.
One of the things that we talk about here on the Disrupt Education podcast is, like, how do we make it so that school is, more engaging and not just a check the box scenario where, maybe it feels like it's you're just going, you're doing whatever you get told to do, and there isn't so much value from it. So you said you had a list of things that you would change, and so I'm interested in first just knowing what the list is and kind of like, what would you want, from an educational system so that it didn't feel that way, you didn't feel like it was more of a check the box.
Okay, first I put having more career-based classes, like my business classes. I wish there were more business classes that I could take, or also like with interior and architecture. I realized that I didn't want to go into it, but I also couldn't explore that more at school. The classes were kind of hard. Teachers prioritizing getting to know the strengths and weaknesses of each student to help improve their abilities on gaining skills and understanding what they want and need in life. Like the relationship that I grew with you. You helped me so much and shaped me into who I am now, and are helping me realize what I want to do and how to stay successful. Having less days or hours in the day of school, or just because I feel like it's so draining and I'm so unmotivated going to school. If I had more time to just like prioritize myself at home, sometimes I feel like that'd be beneficial. Like with my business, I had no time also during the school year because I had to go to school and check the boxes. There was classes that I didn't want to take. Me and Mr. H talked about having those only like a few classes in one day and then the next day the other classes. I feel like that'd be so much more easier and spend more time in one class, and then having that better relationship with your teachers and going more in depth with the classes. And then making tests open note, because in real life, we don't have to memorize all these things. Like in calculus, I don't need to have all those, like that unit circle. I do not need to know that in real life. I can have that on a piece of paper. Like, and when I'm working, I can have my little note sheet next to me. I don't need to memorize everything. That was my list, my most important.
Got it. Take it away, Alli. What do you think? I mean, I love the list. I mean, we've had conversations about it, Gabby, about, that was a block schedule that we were talking about, which I really liked teaching in. I just haven't done it since my first year of education. So
interesting. I'm a big fan of block scheduling, having taught in it. And even when COVID hit, we did a quarter system where you only took 3 or 4 classes each quarter. You had them every day. But I actually was probably besides my first year of teaching, because if you ask any teacher, there's something magical about the first year. It's irreplaceable. You can't recreate it. But I actually loved that 2020 to 2021 school year for the difference of the quarter system. I mean, some people absolutely hated it. It was awful for like certain classes like orchestra. You can imagine that would be a problem. Like I have you one quarter and then I don't see you possibly until 4th quarter, because like there were some issues with some, or like math. Imagine like you have it every day. You have it like in August, September, October, and then you don't see it again until April. Or Spanish languages. There's some issues with it, but for some classes, it really did work. And I thought science, it worked particularly well with the time and just what you're talking about. You could really dive deep into a lot of things, barring the craziness that was that year because of a pandemic. But I like that you're just bringing up, look, we don't have to do the long school days. In fact, students got more time off. The days were shorter, and you could assign quote unquote more deep analysis type problems and lab work, and they'd have more time to mull on it and think about it. because they had the capacity to. Imagine focusing on 3 classes. That's a lot different than 7 or 8. It was like a constant tornado. You were talking, I think, before we started recording, how many classes are you taking for college? What does your schedule look like for college? Can you even picture that?
4 classes, and as of right now, I'm only going to school 3 days.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that? Yeah, I mean,
I love it. I think it's going to be so much easier. I do have to go to school all 5 days because I have cheer, but other than that, like having classes only 3 days is going to be a lot better, and I can prioritize those classes still over the 2 days that I have off, but in different ways, and like focus on gaining more skills and my mindset getting better about like the career that I want. I think it's better than the 7 classes every single day. It's draining.
I know.
Hard.
So, if you had to put a percentage on becoming an educator right now, no pressure, but a little pressure, what would that percentage be? Like, is it 100%? Is it 80%? Is it 50%?
Like 85%.
Okay. The reason I'm asking you that is, you're kind of, you're in the minority when it comes to people wanting to be teachers these days, right? And I wanted to ask you, number one, like I've had a lot of students who have the experiences of, younger, like you were the paper getter, like you just knew it, right? And for some reason, I don't know, those are the great elementary school teachers, the great teachers in general. So you're not going to do terrible at this job. You're going to do great. However, I wanted to ask, like, so why do you think that right now there's a lot of people who, or maybe things that you have seen that don't want to choose the educational path? Because I think it's important to see the pros and cons of going into it before you go into it, right? And I know we've had this conversation, but why do you think that a lot of people don't want to do it? And really, we'll just stop there. Like that's a question. Like why do you think it is the way it is right now?
So with elementary, I know that most people don't want to go into that path because of money. I know that's like the number one thing.
Mm-hmm.
They do not make a lot of money. But then, like with me, I don't want to do middle schoolers. They're a lot to handle. And then high schoolers, I just don't even know about high schoolers. But like with elementary, you also have to think about not just teaching them the subjects that you want to teach, but you have to teach them like basic skills of life. There's so much more to than just teaching the subjects. So that's probably my main reasons why I'm having a hard time. And I know a bunch of people that are trying to go into education and they have the same conflict. A lot of people are talking to them about money. And I never thought about money. I just wanted to do something that I love. Mm-hmm. But when everybody's telling me you're not going to make any money, I'm getting in my head about it. Even though I like the way that the hours are of being a teacher, because then I can have my own store. Because I want to open up like a nice boutique with all my stuff that I sell right now as a side business of being a teacher. And I liked that idea.
I think that it's unfortunate for many reasons, the money aspect with education. The unique factor with you, because you have this entrepreneurial spirit, I don't think money will be a concern, right? And so I will say that the most rewarding thing about teaching, and particularly elementary age, is helping a young person learn how to read, write, understand the world around them, and have a love of life and learning. And it's irreplaceable. You can't put a price tag on it. Society tries to, but that doubt that creeps in, if you're open to this advice, is that if you feel, and this is for anybody, that you're meant and made to do something and you have passion around that, the world is going to tell you why you should or should not do that thing for X number of reasons. And you have to have the kind of the stance to do it. I mean, I'm sure Peter has heard this. I heard this all the time. Oh, teachers don't get paid enough. You know, they don't make enough money. And it's like, it's the most rewarding job at times. And, you know, like, I'm just seeing some of Peter's students right now, right? Like you, Gabby and Patrick, and the impact that Peter had on you. And I've had students where it's like, I know that I made an impact on them. It'll change your whole life. So I just want to encourage you that, you know, and we've talked about this a lot, that if people can find a passion that they can get behind, your whole life will change, and it won't matter what the world says about that. So even if you don't decide to go into education, Gabby, you know, money will not buy you happiness. It just won't. It won't. And you know, I think it's really cool that you have a diverse skill set. And some people might say, like, an entrepreneur, an elementary school teacher, how to make that make sense. But like, you can be both. You can be both. What is, I mean, like, tell me more about your kind of like your future, you know, business ideas, like this boutique. I want to know, like, what is that vision? Where did that vision come from? You know, like, I'm sure lots of people want to hear about. I want to hear about this. So Leah, tell us more about that vision.
So I didn't really have that idea at first. Like, it was just gonna be having that small business on the side, working from home. But I was on TikTok and I saw this one shop in Florida. It's called Gasp, and it's like an all pink store, and the outside's pink and the inside's pink, and she just buys from other small businesses and puts their products in the store, and it's the exact same stuff that I make and sell, or like similar things that I would want to make. And then I realized, I'm like, this is something that I do want, and it is absolutely beautiful. Mine wouldn't be pink. My shop's called Sunday, so I'd make it yellow, but I want it to be in like a popular place where there'd be a lot of tourists and visitors, so it'd be more of like a gift shop for people that are coming in. I haven't decided where. I'm still not thinking much about it, but I would, if I could, I'd start it now, but I can't yet. I can't own the store yet.
There's consistency behind that, Alli, because we had that conversation, I think, in like January, or maybe no, it was in the fall semester of this year. And I think we were talking about that on a previous podcast, Alli, about like, you know, there's an outcome, right? And then the path there is interesting with that. So I think, you know, Gabby, Alli and I are always talking about the path there, right? And it's very different for each student, each learner, each adult, each whatever. It's a different path. But I think one of our whys is really to try to figure out what is the best way that we can provide the best path for learners, right? So that's our big question, and the big question for you. And you kind of had a little bit of that on the list, but just kind of want to ask you the overall question. If you had an opportunity to redesign, let's just stay with high school, right? What would it look like to you and for your path of learning?
Okay, so like I mentioned, I would change the hours or the days. It would just depend on like the teacher schedule and based off the school. I would allow more freedom between picking classes. I guess right now we can pick whatever classes we want, but they're still limited of how many. I'd probably try and grow the amount of classes that there are. I get that like some teachers can't, but if there's like classes where there's only a small amount of kids that want to go in it, they just don't let that class go through. And I think that's unfair for some of the kids. So I definitely keep that going. And then I would just encourage the teachers to grow a better relationship with some of the teachers. I know a teacher in my school that I'm not going to say the name, but she favored other kids and would be rude to any kids that she didn't like. There were some kids that would ask so many questions and she would just get so annoyed and wouldn't want to answer them. She'd tell them to just go figure it out themselves. And I think that's very unfair, because then that could be something he's passionate about and she's not talking to him about it. So I definitely encourage all teachers to have that good relationship and be open to getting to know each student. I think those are the most important things for me in my school education.
I anticipate you loving college. So what you said. And yeah, what is one thing you are, besides the schedule, that you are most excited about for the next stage that life is bringing you in college?
So because I'm starting cheer this summer, I'm really excited to first go into college, having relationships with new people that I've never met before. I think it's definitely going to be beneficial going into a place that you don't know anybody. But I'm really excited to grow those relationships with my teachers and also be around students that are interested in the same things as me, and they can help me stay motivated and steer me in the right direction of deciding what I want.
I love that you have a very team oriented look. And I have to ask the one question that's kind of been like stirring in my mind, and we haven't really gone deep into cheer, right? So you are very deep into cheer. Is it something that, the community of cheer, is it the coach? I just wanted to pull out, what is the greatest asset for you that you get out of cheer, and then even taking it to the next level, because it's obviously made a huge impact on who you are.
Yeah, I was planning on going into cheer in college, but when it was my last weekend, my last moments with my cheer team at Stag, I realized that I was really sad because of the family orientated relationship that we had. I was so close to every single person on that team, and it just made me upset that we had to separate from each other. So then I wanted to try out for North Central Cheer because I really want that relationship with more people. I didn't want that relationship to end. So this day I'm so excited to start cheer again and have that dynamic with new people.
All the energy you want from someone in business or in education or working with young people, you bring all of that. That's very palpable with what you are doing. So a question I asked Patrick that I think would also lend itself well here, as you just finished high school, and you're probably not the same person that you were when you walked in the doors 4 years ago. So what advice, if you could go back to freshman year, would you tell your freshman self that would be good advice for anyone going into high school?
First thing I'd say is, do not talk to anybody, or do not have any friends that bring you down and keep pulling you back. I would tell them to just let go of the people that are not letting you move forward, and just have those friends that motivate you and encourage you and are proud of you and tell you all those positive things towards you. I wish I knew that before.
That is almost precisely what Patrick said. Isn't that amazing? I love that. I love that. So before we grab your connections and how to find you and your store, which is an amazing store online, Alli, I got to ask, what are your final thoughts on this conversation?
Gasp is a store that I now want to go to, and I don't know. As you were painting this picture of your future boutique and life, it can happen. And you're already doing it. You say oh, I can't own a store. You do own a store, maybe not a physical location. You might be able to find ways to, and I would, encourage you or anybody listening to if you think you're too young or too this or too that to do something, Gabby is showing us that it's possible, and that picture that you have in your mind is going to move you forward greater than anything else, and having that that's something to work towards. So I just love that vision that you casted. And I think a lot of people can benefit from a mindset that has a clear vision to move forward in life with.
100%. That's that I'm a very visual person, and when you see it, you can make it. So I can see you in business as well as a great educator. I can't wait to see where you go next. Before we let you go, how can people connect with you, find Sunday Designs, and maybe just start building even more of a network?
My Instagram, my TikTok, and my Etsy is called Shop Sunday Designs. And I'm also on LinkedIn, Gabby Konopko.
Got it.
That's all I have, I think.
No, that's great. We got to get Patrick on there.
I know.
Which we talked about. So, well, Gabby, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your future plans. I don't see anything but a bright future for you because of the way that you view life. You view failures as opportunities to learn. It's not always easy. You get that. We're not always motivated, but we couldn't be prouder of you. And obviously, we're going to watch you grow and learn. So thank you so much for sharing all your thoughts on Disrupt Education today.
Thank you so much for this amazing opportunity. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
100%. And for Alli Privitt, I'm Peter Hostrawser. Thank you all for listening. We'll catch you next time on the Disrupt Education Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode of the Disrupt Education Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Are you ready to disrupt the educational arena you're a part of? For more ways to get involved in the work we do here at Disrupt Education, check us out at disrupteducation.co. or find us on LinkedIn at Peter Hostrawser or Alli Privitt.
Our mission here is to help facilitate and amplify changes in the educational system through local initiatives and help you scale them into community movements. Our building network of disruptors in education are working to move beyond scores and grades as the only measure for student learning. If your school district, college, campus, or organization is looking for facilitators of this work, reach out on our website or social media.
And if you have any thoughts or feedback on this week's episode or any episode, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries, taking risks, and most importantly, disrupting education.